Night Witches, Soviet Women Bomber Pilots, June 1942. The Eastern Front is burning like the mouth of hell. Hitler's armies stretch more than 2,000 miles across Soviet soil. Cities lie in ruins. Villages are turned into ash. Every night, the German soldiers look nervously at the sky, not because of the Luftwaffe, not because of the Red Army's mighty bombers, but because of something else. Something small, something silent, something deadly. Wooden biplanes flown by young Soviet women, some barely 19, some still in school, diving out of the darkness with the sound of a broomstick cutting the air. The Germans whispered a name in fear: Nachthexen, the Night Witches. The story begins not on the battlefield, but with a single woman whose name echoes through aviation history: Marina Ruskova, navigator, record-breaking aviator, the Soviet Amelia Earhart, the first female navigator in the Soviet Air Force. In the 1930s, Ruskova shattered world records. She flew the AN-37 Rodina on a 6,000-kilometer distance flight, earning the title Hero of the Soviet Union. When the German invasion, Operation Barbarossa, began in June 1941, women flooded the recruitment centers. Most were rejected, but Ruskova did not accept rejection. She went directly to Stalin and made a proposal no nation had ever considered: all-women combat aviation regiments, women pilots, women navigators, women mechanics, women bombers. Stalin approved. On October 8, 1941, a historic order was signed. 3 all-female regiments were born: 586th Fighter Aviation Regiment, Yak-1 fighters; 587th Dive Bomber Regiment, later 125th Guards; 588th Night Bomber Regiment, the one the Germans would call the Night Witches. The 588th was commanded by Major Yevdokia Bershanskaya, strict, disciplined, respected. Her recruits were not warriors, and not yet. They were teachers, students, factory girls, farm girls, young women who had never imagined holding a bomb in their hands. Some were as young as 17. Most had long braids, soft voices, and notebooks filled with poetry. They had to cut their hair. They had to wear oversized men's uniforms. They had to fly in freezing skies without parachutes, because their tiny aircraft simply could not carry the extra weight. Their aircraft? The tiny Polikarpov P-02 biplane, wooden canvas, open cockpit, a maximum speed so low that German fighters often stalled trying to shoot them down. But in the darkness, these slow wooden birds became silent predators. Engels Air Base, winter 1941. Training was relentless. They trained for night navigation, bomb dropping by moonlight, low-altitude flying, emergency landings, survival in freezing conditions, mechanics. Every woman had to repair her own plane. They learned to fly without instruments. They learned to feel the wind with their cheeks. They learned to bomb using nothing but instinct. Many cried at night. Many doubted themselves, but none quit. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment flew its first missions in June 1942 near the front lines of the Don River. Their job was simple: harass the German army every night, every hour, non-stop. No rest for the enemy, no silence. They attacked supply depots, ammunition dumps, pontoon bridges, transport hubs. Usually in teams of 3, Plane 1, distract the searchlights. Plane 2, draw the anti-aircraft guns. Plane 3, kill. They cut their engines before the final dive. The plane would drift silently like a ghost. The only sound was the wind whistling through their wooden wings. German soldiers shivered and said, "The witches are coming." Thus the name was sealed. One of the regiment's most legendary pilots, Nadezhda Nadia Popova, flew 852 combat missions, survived being shot down multiple times, became a hero of the Soviet Union. Her most famous night came during the Battle for the Donbass, 1942. Popova flew 18 missions in a single night. 18, no rest, no food, no light. Her aircraft returned with 42 bullet holes. One bullet tore through her map. Another grazed her helmet. Her mechanic cried when she landed, thinking she was dead. Popova simply smiled and said, "There were so many of them, and so few of us. While the night witches were stationed near Stalingrad, they occasionally crossed paths with the 586 Fighter Regiment, where the famous fighter ace Lilia Litviak served. Although Litviak was not a night witch, she inspired them deeply. Popova later said, "When Lilia walked into our bunker, the room changed. A girl with golden hair, yet feared by every German pilot." One of the first night witches to receive the title Hero of the Soviet Union was Yevdokia Nosal, navigator, fearless, unbreakable. On April 22, 1943, during a bombing run near the Kuban River, an enemy fighter attacked her plane. A burst of machine gun fire tore through the cockpit. Nozel was killed instantly, but the pilot beside her, Polina Gelman, held Nozel's lifeless body upright so the plane would remain balanced and managed to land safely. Nozel became the regiment's first major martyr. At the height of the Battle of Stalingrad, the night witches flew constantly. They bombed German positions at Kalach, Kotlubin, Gumrak Airfield, northern factory districts. They flew as many as 14 hours per night with no radio communication. Ground soldiers later said, "If the night witches flew tonight, we knew we would live tomorrow." The German 17th Army held a fortified position near the Kuban River. The night witches launched massive nightly bombings, sometimes flying as low as 300 feet over enemy trenches. Their friend and comrade, Irina Sabrova, flew 1,008 missions, the most of any woman bomber pilot in history. She became one of the regiment's most decorated heroes. In one mission near Crimea, Popova's plane was ambushed by a German Bf-110 night fighter. Tracer rounds lit up the sky. Popova's wings were shredded. She crash-landed in darkness, only meters from a minefield. While repairing her aircraft the next morning, she met pilot Semyon Kharlamov from another regiment. They later married after the war. Popova said, "War gave me darkness, but it gave me love too." For their exceptional bravery, Stalin awarded them the elite title, 46th Guards Night Bomber Aviation Regiment. This was a rare honor. They now flew deeper into enemy territory, Belarus, Poland, East Prussia, Slovakia, Germany. One of their most daring missions targeted a German command center believed to be linked to General Heinz Guderian, the father of the Panzer divisions. The night witches destroyed key communication lines, allowing Soviet armor to break through. A captured German officer said, "We feared the darkness. Because the witches owned it, the final year was brutal. Bombs were scarce, fuel was rationed, winter was unforgiving. Yet they continued flying every night. They supported Soviet offensives in Dynia, Gdansk, Danzig Bay, Pomeranian Forest, Oder River crossings. By now, the Germans had set special searchlight traps just for them. But the witches slipped through the cracks. In the final days of the war, the night witches flew missions near Berlin, hitting supply convoys and retreating German forces. Their final sortie was on May 4, 1945. 3 days later, Germany surrendered, and the night became quiet again. The night witches flew over 30,000 combat missions. More than 23,000 tons of bombs dropped. No radios, no radar, no armor, no parachutes. They produced 23 heroes of the Soviet Union. They terrified elite German units. They altered the course of battles. They broke the idea of what women could do in war. Their regiment suffered fewer casualties than almost any other aviation regiment, despite flying the most missions. They came from farms. They came from cities, from schools and factories. Girls who became warriors, warriors who became legends. They flew into the night, armed with nothing but courage, skill, and a wooden aircraft that should never have survived a battlefield. But they did more than survive. They became immortal. They were not witches. They were not ghosts. They were soldiers, heroes, women who changed history. When the night was darkest, they lit the sky with fire. They were the night witches.